Good evening, everyone. Call the meeting to order this evening. I'd like to humbly acknowledge the land which you live, learn, work, and play is Treaty 8 territory, traditional lands of the Cree and Dene, and unceded territory of the Métis. I'd like to also acknowledge we have Councillor Boussier and Councillor McGrath online, and Councillor, please have your camera on for voting purposes. And if anyone in attendance wishes to address Council on any of the agenda items, please see the Legislative Services desk, and we can get you on before the item. And just a reminder, you must stay on topic, introduce yourself, and you have 5 minutes to present. Before we adopt the agenda, does anyone wish to serve notice of motion? I do, actually. I, Mayor Sandy Bowman, serve notice of intent to bring forward the following motion for council consideration on the January 9, 2024 council meeting. The administration bring forward a policy that formalizes the community rinks program that will allow homeowners to construct temporary outdoor skating rinks on or directly adjacent to their property using municipal lands. That in the interim, administration work with the residents that currently have community rinks constructed on municipal lands to ensure public safety, and that administration focus enforcement activities regarding community rinks to issues of public safety, disrepair, or property damage until that time that this new policy has been considered by council. Can I have someone make the motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Councillor Stroud.
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. I move that the agenda be amended by removing item 3.2 and that the agenda be adopted as amended.
Thank you, Councillor Stroud. Can someone second that motion? Councillor Banjoko.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I second the motion.
Thank you. Are there any other amendments to the agenda? As seeing, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to consent agenda. Was anyone wish to remove any items from the consent agenda? Can I have someone make the motion? Councillor Stroud? Your light was on. It's off. Councillor Banjoko? Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the recommendations... Is that the one? Okay. I move that the recommendations contained in items 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, and 3.4 be approved.
Do you want to do that again when we remove 3.2, Councillor Banjoko?
Thank you. I move that the recommendations contained in items 3.1, 3.3, and 3.4 be approved.
Thank you. And can someone second that motion? Councillor Stroud?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. I second the motion.
Thank you. And I'll call for a vote. All in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to presentations. We have an update from FuseSocial regarding current state of the sector and tomorrow project collective impact. I'd like to invite Rex and Shannon Rex and Christopher Cameron to present, please.
Test. Excellent. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Shannon Rex, and I'm the Executive Director for FuseSocial, and I am joined here tonight by my colleague, Christopher Cameron. Christopher and I appreciate the opportunity to connect with you all this evening so we can share an update on the Tomorrow project. Throughout our presentation, we'll review 3 phases of work to date and share lessons learned as well as the next steps. So the Tomorrow project started in the fall of 2020. FuseSocial conducted a state of the sector profile, which identified all of the nonprofits, charities that existed in the community, as well as other special topics related to nonprofits. From there, the goal of the project was to bring the social profit sector together in a social profit sector summit to rally the sector around shared goals and to create identify shared outcomes to be measured, reported, and utilized. So lessons learned through phase 1 and 2 of the project. As we began to bring the sector together in the 2021 Social Profit Sector Summit to participate in collective impact work, we were needed to consider experience gaps. So when we brought executive directors and leaders within the sector together, there was a spectrum of experiences and readiness for collective impact. The second lesson was prioritizing readiness. So when we tried to bring everybody together to participate in Tomorrow Project work, there was a broad spectrum of abilities within sector leaders for whatever reason, capacity, restraints, to be able to participate. So our third lesson was to be able to move forward with this work effectively. We wanted to identify subsectors and coalition leads who were ready to drive this work forward, and we needed a driver within each subsector group to help move things along. Our fourth lesson was extending our reach. So there were some organizations that were not connected into our channels for the work that we wanted to do that still wanted to be. So in redeveloping the third phase of our project, we wanted to make sure that we had channels to connect all of the organizations within our community into this work as they were ready and able to participate. And the fifth stage was build momentum. We wanted to pilot a third option for this work, which ultimately resulted in bringing individual subsectors together, test that process, and then build momentum and build it outwards. And I'll let Christopher talk a little bit about where that work has taken us.
That's great. Thanks, Shannon. So the opportunity to do the work, especially the subsector coalition work that Shannon talked about, is probably the most exciting thing that we have. So focusing on the groups that were ready to move forward and do the work that Shannon described has been exciting. So we have, at present, we actually have 4 subsector groups going. We have one that's focused on child and youth and families. We have one that's focused on seniors. We have one that's focused on mental health. And the fourth one is one that's focused on poverty reduction. So those 4 groups are all kind of following the same process. So we're working on building a collective strategy where all of the agencies that sit at the table to work in those subsectors kind of identify their common priorities and areas that they'd like to invest in. And once they've done that, then the really exciting work happens. So we kind of pick some priority project work that everybody's going to collectively work on together. And through that, we get that scale of economy, right? We have less duplication, we have less, redundancies, we have less missed opportunities because we have the same agencies focused on the same kind of needs working together collectively. And then I think the last phase of the work that we're also really excited about too, that we're just getting into as we get into 2024, is measuring that collective impact work that Shannon talked about, right? So what are the collective outcomes? How are we achieving those together as a subsector group? And then ultimately, I think our vision in the next year or two is to actually bring on more of those subsector groups to the point where we actually have the majority of the subsector needs kind of being kind of managed the same way, and then be able to kind of integrate that into a bigger picture where we actually have the whole sector working the same way. So basically, strategy, kind of joint priorities based on the needs that people collectively identify, reducing those kind of duplications and filling those gaps, and then project work collectively, and then collective joint outcome measurement. So that's kind of the roadmap that we're following, I guess, of the pathway that we're working, and all of the agencies we're working with are fantastic and really aligned and highly engaged in this work, and it's been a really productive kind of piece of work to do for the last 2.5 years, maybe? Yeah. 1.5 2 years, probably fully. So yeah, excited to give you guys that update and take any questions you guys have. So thank you.
Super. Thanks, Sharon, Shannon. Thanks, Rex. First, I just want to thank you for everything you guys do for all the social profits we have in the community. I mean, it goes a long way. They do a lot of amazing work in the community, along with our community investment groups here. So appreciate what you're doing and just making it a better place to live. Thanks. And Councillor Weigel, question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through the chair. Thank you for the presentation. I really appreciate it. I've been learning kind of like last 6 months really up to speed about, a lot about FuseSocial and what's going on. I actually just heard, and I know the Sapper Creeks Residence Society is using the free strategic planning that you guys provide to help people, do strategic planning and walk them through it. And so what a great piece to be able to do for somebody that doesn't know how to do it or an organization that needs it. So Thank you for that. Quick question. You talked about 4 areas, and I apologize, I didn't see the last one. You talked about child and youth, seniors, mental health, and what was the 4th?
Poverty reduction. Yeah.
Poverty reduction.
Yep.
Thank you. And then the other question is, what would you say your biggest win is so far up to date? 2.5 years in, what's the biggest win?
Well, that's a great question. For me, I think the biggest win that we've had so far is that we went from a state, I think, 2 years, 3 years ago, where we had a lot of agencies kind of working in isolation, kind of on their own, to really kind of working in a truly collaborative way on those joint needs, right? And I think that's a pretty landmark shift, actually, for the community, because I think there's obviously a lot of pressures to do things differently, and I think the sector and the groups that we're working with have really heard that call and have kind of willingly jumped in on that. And I think they should be really given some good recognition for that. And I think the outcome that comes with that is that I think ultimately we're going to see conditions for people who use services from the social profit agencies in the community get better, because there's alignment, right? And I think that's a huge win, massive win. And so you know, we're still early in the journey, but the change from 2 years ago to today is about 180 degrees, legitimately. I think I just couldn't be more excited. I know, Shannon.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we've heard comments from some of the groups that we're working with around there was always kind of a desire to do this work, but the funding that we've been able to receive from our partners, including the municipality, has enabled us to be the convener in that space and to put into practice the work that they wanted to do and lead that work for them, because it's ultimately for them and for the, you know, the betterment of their organizations and the people that they're serving. So we're excited to be able to play that part.
That's awesome. And then just one last question. Where are the 4 sectors do you find the most collaboration happening right now?
Oh boy, it's like trying to choose your
Favorite child.
pet, right? Or favorite child. I would say, you know, and I genuinely would say this, I think there's equal shares of collaboration. It looks a little different in each of the groups just because of the nature of the issues. The group that's been working the longest, I guess I give them a bit of a shout out, is the Child and Youth group. They within moments, literally, of us offering this opportunity to do this work about a year and a half ago, I think they reached out to Shannon within like moments and said, yes, we want to do this. The Our Children, Our Youth Coalition, that's been in existence for a few years, was really kind of drifting, and they said, you know, if this is an opportunity for us to align our work together, we're all in on that. And so, you know, Samantha Smith from the Hub, who's kind of the architect and the lead for that group, she's been fantastic to work with. She couldn't be here with us tonight, but I'd give them credit for that. All of the groups for sure, but I would say they're the furthest along, and they put a huge amount of effort into the work to get to this point. So they're in great shape. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for all you guys do. Much appreciated.
Yeah.
Thanks so
You're
much.
welcome.
Thanks, Councillor Weigel. Councillor Dover.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for giving me a chance. Madam, thank you very much for the nice presentation. It was a great treat to see you in your office also, and I found that something positive is being done, though it was a short visit, and you were busy in that day. And in the evening, we again saw you here, but unluckily, we couldn't hear you. I also saw you people in Gala. Yeah, you have a stall to, I think, providing volunteers. Is it right? There was a table outside entrance that was of your organization.
At the Festival of Trees, yeah, that was us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you are providing volunteers to help other organizations. Am I right?
Yeah, that's correct. We, FuseSocial runs the North Star Forward Buffalo Volunteer Center, so we support organizations throughout the community.
Thank you very much. I got the reply. I want to ask you, what are the categories of the volunteers you have, and how many are you have on your panel?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
How many volunteers you have on your panel, and what are their categories that you have with you?
So the number of volunteers that we have as part of Wood Buffalo Volunteers is over 7,000 volunteers registered. Different categories of volunteers would be, like, there's organizations across the community, there's event volunteers, there's program volunteers, board leadership volunteers.
Well, you don't have separate, other than the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo, don't you operate independently?
Yeah, like the volunteer center, FuseSocial.
No, you have counted the volunteers who are already on the panel of RMWB. Do you have some separate recruitment or not for volunteers?
Sorry, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe I can try and clarify. So you're just asking if there's a separate group of
Correct, yes.
people volunteer in a bunch of different places, but they're separate, I think, in that regard. Oh, sorry. sorry about that. Thank you. Yeah, no, there's multiple different groups of volunteers in the community, but most of them would participate in the Wood Buffalo Volunteer Center. I think it's fair to say, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Is that your
Can you
question?
name some of the groups?
Which groups? Sorry.
Which groups of volunteers? What is their specialization? What is their education? Different groups you provide volunteers at time of their need.
Well, I think probably all the social profit agencies in the community draw on that group. So the hundreds that are out there would come to Fuse to access or look for volunteer support.
Okay.
So it's probably too many to name, but
Fine. Okay.
yeah,
Please
yeah.
allow me to sometime I come and say hi
Sure.
to you. We have coffee together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably
and
get
we
into that.
discuss these things.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions from council? Councillor Benjoko?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. I'm just going to say thank you for all that you do, and appreciate the good works from FuseSocial. And I see you a lot on Facebook. One of the things I've noticed is the leadership training, and I want to commend you for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're good? Do you have any questions from council? I'm not seeing any, so thank you, Chris. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Next, we have an update from the United Way, led by Kathy Steves and Bob McKay. It's not even Friday, and Bob has his red shirt on. Look.
Green is go. Green is go. Ready, Bob?
Yes.
All right. Mayor, council members, Mr. Hunter, welcome. And esteemed guests, thank you for this opportunity to speak to you this evening. I'd like to introduce to you Bob McKay, the 2023 Community Campaign Chair. Bob is a champion for our social profit sector and has been helping us make a difference in our region.
Good evening, everybody. 2023 has been especially challenging for all the social profit sector as they faded economic uncertainty. Layoffs and rising cost of living, among other factors, have affected us all. While most of us in this room are fortunate enough to be working every day, drawing a decent paycheck, just outside these doors, the scene is very, very different. I'd like to tell you a story about a man from our community who struggled with addiction. We'll call him John Doe. We have permission to retell the story, but we're removing all of his personal information just to protect his identity. John was a regular, hardworking man with a wife and son. He worked at site and had a very good salary. Tragically, things took a turn for the worse for his family, and his son was killed in an accident. John's world fell apart. He turned to drugs and alcohol to ease the pain, and within a year, he was homeless and living on the streets of Fort McMurray. His wife had left him, unfortunately, grieving in her own way. He turned to the Salvation Army, and the staff of the Salvation Army would often see John in their shelter, and for months he would sit and talk with the team about his life, his loss, and his addictions. One day the staff became concerned because they hadn't seen him for weeks, and they were worried he potentially overdosed or, even worse, maybe self-harmed. Then, a few months later, John turned up, dressed nicely, looking awesome, healthy, and ready to go. The staff were amazed. They hugged him and asked him where he'd been. He explained to them that through the help of the Salvation Army that filled him with so much hope that he no longer felt that he fit on the streets. He had turned his life around and he started working again. John's story reminds us that tragedy can strike anyone at any time. So I urge you all to consider how the social profit sector has benefited you and your families and your friends potentially, and to give generously.
Thank you, Bob. This story is just one of thousands that we hear of in our sector and in our region. And we're very fortunate that John was lucky enough to have received the services and support he needed to get back on his feet from one of our amazing agencies. Thanks to those frontline workers, tens of thousands of our regional citizens are happy, healthy, and contributing members of society. And many more are currently on their journey to a brighter future.
This year, statistics have shown across Canada, people who give charities are giving 40% less than usual. In our region, donations have decreased by 33% over the last 5 years and 47% in the last year. Our campaign total this year was, we had a budget of $3 million, but we only reached 1.5, halfway. Knowing the financial needs of this sector, this means we have a substantial shortfall. Sadly, with that shortfall, programs and services will need to be either rolled back or cut completely. We're not here this evening to make anyone feel obligated to give, because we all know donating to United Way is and has always been voluntary. However, the reality is that when donations decline, the need for social services actually go up. Without services, the cost to our community grows exponentially. To put this into perspective, without these services, we're going to see a rise in crime, potentially theft, drug addiction, alcohol addiction. Poverty will increase among our vulnerable children and seniors, and potentially different kinds of abuse. The RMWB will have to increase the budget for police, ambulance, fire department, medical and mental health services at an estimated cost from anywhere from $4,000 per person and up. It is, in fact, the social profit sector who provides essential programs and services that save the municipality millions of dollars each year by preventing and treating issues at a fraction of the cost.
And that's just for ambulance service, that $4,000 per person per use, and that's just an estimate. You can imagine if we had to add in police, mental health services, and fire department. Here's some good news, though. The provincial government has increased their tax credits for charitable giving to make it more affordable than ever to donate. They have increased their donation tax credit for the first $200 of a charitable tax donation to 60% instead of 10%, a sizable increase. Which means, for example, when you give $200 to a registered charity and we include the federal tax credit, you'll receive $150 back in your tax return, essentially paying only $50 for your donation. In closing, we want to urge you to give. We want to urge every single person in the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo to take the responsibility to help their neighbors, their friends and family, let's say, to make a difference by giving to United Way. And Bob and I were rehearsing our presentation and we were crunching for time, but now that we've talked so fast, we have a minute left. And I just want to say that giving to United Way is like giving to your investment broker. Many of you are planning for your retirement. Would you do your own your own investments? Would you give money to just anybody, hoping that your money grows? No, you wouldn't. I certainly hope you wouldn't. And so United Way is very similar in that sense that we are your philanthropy brokers. We know where the need is. We are good at what we do. We make every dollar go the extra mile, and your return on your donation investment is substantial for your community. So we urge you to say, okay, this year we're going to give to the United Way. A $200 donation at least would be fantastic. And out of that, you really only pay $50 bottom line. If you wanted to give more, of course, the benefits are even greater for us at United Way and for our region. So we thank you for your time, your attention, and your compassion this evening. Are there any questions?
Thanks, Kathy. Thanks, Bob. Definitely great information, and the tax credit, I think, hopefully will bring you in some more donations.
Exactly.
Great catch.
Thank you.
And good catchphrase, too. Councillor Dogar?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Steve. Great presentation, very informative, and great job for the community you people do. I have literally feel of that from place to place. And last time, once I met you in your office, you were very kind to give me a lot of time. And there you said that you don't take any money from Regional Municipality of Wood Buffalo. Yeah. Am I right?
It's true. The donations were very low this year.
Okay.
But considering 40% decrease in charitable donations across the country,
okay,
we're not the only ones seeing this decrease, 47% here in our region. Of course, we feel economic changes I think, faster than most Canadians because the industries are here. And when jobs are lost in our big oil sands, that means real families, real time, real things are changing daily here. So families are very nervous about giving when there is that job uncertainty. And I believe that with every oil sand worker that loses a job in our region, they take a teacher, a social worker, social profit worker, and at least 2 students out of the school system, if not at least 2 part-time workers out of our Tim Hortons and McDonald's. And we lose a lot of opportunities to get their donations, but obviously understandable.
Thank you. My question is still going on. It is not, that was in the process of putting up the question. I requested you that I want to be one of the fund collecting men, and you please give me a time for that. And so far I'm waiting the time. And probably this is not the place where I ask the time. Please give me and we will contribute it. And so I know every council member has very high esteem about your organization.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Councillor Weigel?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through the chair. I just want to say thank you for the presentation, and thank you, Kathy and Bob, for all you guys do. I know you guys put endless hours into the community, not just for United Way, but all the way across. Every time we're out seeing, the social profits out there, you guys are heading it up. Bob, I know you've done countless work. I've worked with you, beside you, and seen you from afar. And I just want to say thank you for all you guys do, and we'll continue to pray that 2024 becomes the best year yet. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Weigel. Councillor Stroud?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman, and thank you for the presentation. Very much appreciated. Just wondering, do you accept e-transfers?
Yes, we sure do. Okay. On our website right now, there's a little click to donate button. Please take advantage of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stroud. Councillor Benjoko?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Kathy and Bob, for leading the way for United Ways. And it's commendable what you do. I thank you all, and also all the social profit organizations in the region for giving the gift of hope, of homes, of food. And it takes only to experience it to know how tough it can be. Right. And so I want to appreciate that. And the general Canadian culture of volunteering and giving, it's amazing the kind of support and givings that we get in this region. And I'm grateful I didn't stay too long in jail for United Ways.
Councillor Banjoko was part of our jail and bail, just to clarify.
Be very clear on that, yes.
So thank you again, and I'm thankful for what you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Oh, I know she was.
Called you for bail, did she?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was the first phone call. Except her mom.
That's right.
Do we have any questions from council? I'm not seeing any, so thank you both.
Okay, thank you so much.
Next, we have an update from the Wood Buffalo Pro Business Advisory Committee. There's no objection. The presenter has requested 10 minutes for a presentation, and I'd like to invite Dan D'Souza, Chair of Buffalo Pro Business Advisory Committee, and Dennis Vroom, Municipal Initiatives, to present, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the record, my name is Diana D'Souza, and I am the Chair of the Wood Buffalo Pro Business Advisory Committee. I'm here to provide an update on the work undertaken by the committee this year, along with 14 recommendations for your consideration. Joining me tonight is Dennis Vroom, who needs no introduction, from your Municipal Initiatives Department. He has been greatly helpful to us as a committee. Now, tonight's presentation will include a brief overview of the committee's mandate, As this is our first report to Council, I will introduce the committee members. I will also outline the work done by the committee to fulfill its mandate and develop recommendations on how the municipality can better support businesses in the region. Finally, I will discuss the next steps the committee will take. The committee's mandate was established in September 2022 when bylaw 024 was amended. Essentially, the committee was created to advise and make recommendations to municipal administration and council on systemic and recurring challenges in areas under municipal jurisdiction. Notably, the committee was created with an end date of December 31st, 2023. Now, the committee members, my esteemed colleagues, are very passionate about business in our community and truly representative of the community. Myself, Diana D'Souza, the chair, representing Fort McMurray Chamber of Commerce. Carmelo de Prasido, he is the vice chair representing Build Wood Buffalo. Christy Hines, representing Fort McMurray Wood Buffalo Economic Development and Tourism. Lana Maloney, representing the Fort McMurray Construction Association. Robbie Picard, representing Public at Large with a Loud Voice for Business. John Ryback, representing Consulting Engineers of Alberta, and Michelle Toner, representing the Northeastern Alberta or Aboriginal Business Association. Now, the committee began its work in early 2023 and conducted 3 workshops to narrow the committee's focus to 4 primary areas, which are internal municipal communications breakdown, inconsistent and lengthy procurement practices, inefficient business processes, and business attraction and retention. To further gather information on these focus areas, the committee received 3 presentations from various departments within the administration and hosted a business roundtable session with local business owners, which became quite an eye-opener, I think, for a lot of us who don't listen to them every day or hear from them every day. Initially, about 40 draft recommendations were identified. However, understanding that 40 recommendations were too many, well, I feel CEO Hunter could handle that without any problems, but we thought it was too many for council and administration. The committee further refined the list. Tonight, I'm presenting 14 recommendations on behalf of my committee colleagues. The first recommendation is foundational to the remaining 13, suggesting that the committee's end date be extended to December 31st, 2024, and that 3 additional seats be included to allow more input from local business owners, us having seen the value of having that business roundtable input to our recommendations. The second recommendation emphasizes the importance of the municipality meeting new and prospective business owners proactively, ensuring potential development of certain sizes or importance that they receive an enhanced or white glove level of service. I think we've been talking about this for some time, and I was pleased when I met with CEO Hunter yesterday to understand that is actually in trade, that one point of contact. So that is brilliant news for businesses. The third recommendation, while a substantial undertaking, is considered vital, and it involves an assessment of municipal bylaws, impacting businesses as part of an effort to reduce red tape and ensure that regulations do not unnecessarily exceed those of higher government. Additionally, customer service training across the organization is crucial to ensure staff work with empathy with existing and new businesses, understanding the impact of municipal processes and decisions, understanding the cost impact, the fact that there's potential tax revenues. So as we lose in some instances, we can gain. And businesses are also, it's about quality of life, but it's also a bottom line for the municipality. A business crime watch. I'm happy to say we've had some great movement with this in collaboration with the municipality as well as the RCMP, but we're proposing that it's crucial to address the increase in business-related crime throughout the region and not just the downtown area. A grant aligned with the WATCH program should be developed to assist business owners in implementing specific security solutions which will allow for them being able to solve many crimes. The sixth recommendation involves reviewing the business license process to expedite the start of new businesses. The completion of the municipal development plan is the committee's 7th recommendation, viewed as crucial for both new and existing businesses, but also is the blueprint for future development for requesting additional lands. It's the starting point to get to your land use plan, to get to where we need to be and grow or be stable in our future. In discussions with local businesses, confusion around zoning throughout the region was evidence. A publicly accessible zoning database is recommended to clarify where certain activities can occur. Business owners have indicated that other jurisdictions actively encourage business growth through various incentives. It is recommended that the municipality develop incentives to foster investment and reinvestment throughout the region. The 10th recommendation is for the RMWB procurement to standardize contracts to expedite the procurement process and ensure reasonableness in the execution. Furthermore, the 11th recommendation addresses developing consistent and concise timelines for tendering, awarding, and executing contracts. To ensure regional needs, including business requirements, are represented at the provincial and federal levels, the committee recommends creating a government liaison position to support advocacy effort. And I might be a little bit scared. I wasn't at last council, but I looked at it last night, so I'm hoping this one goes smoothly. Now, the regional population size is crucial for both existing and new businesses, as it's likely the source of their customers and donations for social profit and many different things. Collaboration with large businesses throughout the region to identify incentives that would increase the regional population is recommended. The final recommendation is to create a publicly accessible data repository to support the development of new and existing businesses. Now, the committee's next step, the committee has had a productive first year, at least we think we did, and looks forward to continuing its work. The next step, including supporting the amendment of the committee bylaw as outlined in this presentation. While the committee itself recommended extending its end date by 1 year, it supports the administration recommendation for a 2-year extension. After administration reviews the recommendation in more detail, the committee will collaborate on how to implement them. In 2024, the committee will report to council as requested or required. And that is it for me. Thank you. If there are any questions.
Thank you, Diana. Really appreciate all the work that's gone into this committee over the last 2 years, I guess.
Actually less than one.
I guess it took a year to get in.
Yes.
Yes.
We started a little late in 2023, yeah.
Yeah, I was working on it for next year. That's right. Yeah, no, you guys, I think it's a lot of work, and it's just discussions with you that everybody's been around the table bringing great ideas and bringing more businesses involved in getting their opinions and what they're seeing as the thing's going. Before I go to the council questions, I just have a quick question. If you could explain number 14 a little more detail for us.
That's the one with the data.
Administration create publicly accessible data that will support development in new and existing businesses.
So when you look at data that can drive development, but also decision-making for a municipality, driving economic development, but different parts. If education wants a program, different things. You start with things that we have available already, but may not be in one place. So demographic data, population size, then economic indicators, things like local employment, business growth statistics, or businesses that have shut down. Do we actually know what's going on? Key sectors and industry, the economic impact of those, real estate information, labor market information, so your skills, what's needed, what do you require, business resources, where are your incubators, what's your support, what's your program, what are the financial resources, healthcare, what's the status of healthcare? Can I go immediately if I'm trying to come to a region and maybe I need a specific type of healthcare? Somewhere there's a repository that tells me what's available in the region. So it's all in one place. Quality of life, right? So you think of cultural recreation, all the things that we have, but in one place, but consumer spending patterns, also regulatory details. And I believe there's an economic impact survey going right now, right? A survey that's made to the public where the general public speaks to what they perceive and what is their experience in terms of the business environment. And those are just some of what you put in that will help drive programs that will have decision-making to really help businesses make decisions, but to help even us as support to determine where to put the energy and effort in.
Okay, perfect. That's exciting. And I really like number 13. So that's yeah, something I haven't thought of. I think it's great to have it in there. So thank you so much. Councillor Dogar?
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. Madam, thank you very much for the nice presentation. Very informative. I understand all the business activities in the region, they revolve around your office. Yeah, Chamber of Commerce, has a liaison with them. But I want to ask you the 14 points which you have given to organize and move ahead with these points. Do you need some extra funds also? From where the funding, or it would be all volunteer?
Yeah. So if I could please address your first comment. Yes, Chamber of Commerce, we are a business and we are connected. But if you look at the committee, there are a lot of other business associations. So while I sit as the chair, I don't sit as the chair as the chamber. I represent the chamber, but it's other organizations. So it's a collective that represents different sector. So to be fair to all of the players, it's everybody that came together that put this together. The implementation now comes back to the municipality, and the reason why it's being presented to you as information for administration to go back is to then determine on a case-by-case basis what is needed. If there's funding, what is required. These are things to be implemented within and by the municipality.
Thank you very much. You have killed one point of mine, that so many points administration is involved. Have you done some liaison with them or taken their consent also? And you said now you will send them to administration. But as Mayor said that for the last 2 years you have been operating it, I don't know how these two statements collaborate at one point.
So as a committee, we were formed officially in 2022, but it's only been less than a year that we have been meeting. So the bylaw passed, but then they had to recruit the committee members and all the rest of it. So it's been a few months collectively. And as I mentioned in the presentation, our process of coming up with a recommendation, we did have administration present us, but Sonia's our note taker. Dennis is side by side with me, so we're not separate and apart from the municipality, but our recommendations do represent the voice of business. And now it's coming to municipality to then review each one, come back to us, and they will work with us as a committee again to determine in what form they can best be implemented, or where there may be challenges to implement.
Thank you very much. But once I read all these 14 points needs itself a small team to run these points. These are, tasks by itself, 14 tasks difference. I don't know, volunteers can do it, or you need extraordinary funds for that. And but you are giving one side opinion, and maybe it's not okay from the other side.
I think maybe I can help, Councillor Dogar. So it's a business advisory committee. Yes. So their job, what they're doing is collectively getting issues that are in the community and giving us advice. Okay, so that's the advice they're giving us for us to take back.
It's a good job you're doing. Thank you.
Councillor Stroud.
Thank you, Mayor Bowman, and many thanks to the Wood Buffalo Pro-Business Advisory Committee for working diligently to bring forward these much-needed recommendations. In reviewing your 4 primary areas of focus, can you please expand on the inconsistent and lengthy procurement practices?
So I could probably speak for that for a long time, but I guess in summary, some of the experiences that went into framing this point would be multiple tendering of the same contract, so it goes out for tender multiple times, awarding, but then a lengthy time between the award and actually putting in the contract, lengthy times for change orders, to be able to come around to change orders, lengthy times for payment, despite the Prompt Payment Act being in place, payment not being made within the standard 30 days timeline required. So there are a number of things around there. And I did speak to CEO Hunter yesterday, and I know things are happening to drive those changes, but those have been pains of the business sector for a long time, way before my time.
So also, can you please elaborate on your concern on inefficient business processes and the recommendation for customer service training within the RMWB?
So a lot of times you get feedback and challenges that you experience where you find roadblocks or a lot of bureaucracy is thrown. I had one example where there was an item I had to escalate where somebody rejected something based on the color of ink, and it was frustrating. So there are lots of small things and there are lots of big things, and sometimes there may be a delay in an occupancy permit just because it's a personal opinion or perspective. We believe that proper training and understanding of the impact on cost, the impact on business, the impact on job creation, having empathy and maybe coming from a perspective of how can I help you versus you need to follow all of these. Just standard customer service training to really understand the realities of business and the fact that the business sector is a key economic driver. While we have industry and they're significant, the rest of the business sector, they're important to the quality of life because we want to be able to shop with them. They create jobs, so they employ people and these people spend, but they also, when they're profitable, they create taxes for the region. So it's just understanding every decision that's made, the impact it has, and to come forward with solutions and helpfulness, to allow for businesses to not bypass what is required, to ensure that they operate safely, but to ensure that we can expeditiously get to the point where it's easy to do business. Nobody wants to apply for a permit any which ways, but that it's as painless as possible and it moves along. Yeah?
Yes, more smooth flowing and more prompt.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Stroud. Councillor Benjoko?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. Thank you, Diana. Thank you for the presentation. And I truly enjoyed it. You nailed some points, which is maybe things that we all know, but how we tackle those challenges will be interesting. So one area is the retention of population. I was excited to go to Sephora when the new store, and hopefully more stores are coming. But I'm also concerned that if there is not enough business, it might not work. So did your committee consider other things that we can do to retain the population, grow the population? What can we do to have the number? Given the events that happened in one of the, or maybe some of the oil sands companies where people are being laid off. So I personally know of people who have moved out already again. So was that one of the things you worked on or considered?
So one of our recommendations is that we look at incentives and we look at working with the larger businesses and sitting down and collaborating to determine how we can get more persons to the region. Yes. And as we work through that, there may be different forms, recruiting from smaller region, there are different approaches to it, but really sitting with the big guys and saying, okay, how can we work together? How can we incentivize? And the second part of this is incentivizing businesses to come to the region.
Yes.
So making it easy, having shovel-ready lands, having incentives. I will always say when you look at companies like Microsoft and some of those big companies in the US, they put out tenders to cities for where they may be interested to have their headquarters.
Amazon.
And Amazon. And cities bid, and they understand that you may give up, you may have to give up a land and building tax, or you may offer this, or you may offer land for $2, but with that comes jobs. And with that jobs and that salary comes economic activity that retains these businesses. So it's a suggestion to work together to look at different forms to incentivize.
Thank you. And I know it will take a lot of collaboration and brainstorming, but thank you for bringing that forward.
Thank you, Councillor Bajoko. Maybe Councillor Ball.
Thank you, through the chair. I guess I was going to ask a question about these incentives, and you touched on it already, so I don't really want to waste your time on it. But when we're talking about incentives, how far are we willing to go? My concern is we can't give away the farm, because the guy who owns the farm next door might say, how come you give away the farm? What are you going to do for me now to keep him there? So it's a bit of a slippery slope. I just wonder what other incentives you might have considered.
So, Councillor Ball, we actually talked about, I guess, those very same incentives we're talking about. Now, if that guy who has the farm next door wants to invest in something new or another business, then he can then come to the table and ask for new incentives. But if we don't look at those options in terms of attracting new businesses and attracting new residents to the community, then we will remain in the current state. There's always going to be a bit of turbulent waters, but it's not something that we should shy away from, would be my response.
Okay, no, I'm not saying shy away from it, but in some cases it could be on quite a grand scale. So, I mean, property's not cheap. So, and frankly, we don't own very much of it. They're privately owned. So, anyway, no, thanks. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. CEO Hunter.
Thank you, Mayor. Through the chair, I met with Deanne, I think it was yesterday, yeah, and we had a good conversation. Well, one of the things that I brought forward is we're actually working on an incentive policy at the moment, and that's with our legal department. We'll be bringing that forward to council for their consideration probably sometime towards the beginning, end of next year, end of the first quarter next year. We also talked about, the government relations. We've already got that started. That's already in place, and so we're working on that. Procurement, we are looking at it's high on the radar, and we will be moving forward with that as well. And also the sort of the white glove or the one point of contact, we've already started on that to get that in place already. So I was actually quite pleased to see the 14 recommendations that we're already working on a number of them, and we didn't really have many issues with the 14 recommendations except for one, which we do butt heads on, but we'll sort out as we go along. That's me. Thank you.
Thanks, CEO Hunter. Councillor Stroud.
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. And again, one more question. Can you further explain the standardization of the contracts?
That's hitting the one where CEO Hunter and I are butting heads. Mm-hmm. What we really want is standard contracts, and now the municipality has been working towards their own standard contracts. A lot of discussions that came around the committee was about using specifically the CCDC standard. CEO Hunter, we're not necessarily aligned, but in discussions, I think the issues with contracts that are negatively affecting businesses is understood. And as he said, I do think through some dialogue, we can get to a point that can work for both sides. So, thank you.
That's a step forward. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Stroud. Do we have any questions from council? I'm not seeing any, so thank you, Diana. Moving along, coming out of this presentation, we have a business arising report from administration. So I'd like to invite Dennis Vroom to remain seated. Municipal initiatives and speak to the report, please.
Thank you, and through the chair. Good evening. For the record, my name is Dennis Vroom. Excuse me. As Diana has just walked you through the approach that the committee took to develop their recommendations, tonight I'll just be speaking briefly to administration's recommended motions for this item. While various members of administration have presented to the committee and supported the committee's work throughout the year, a detailed review of these recommendations, including assessing the financial impact of them, has not yet occurred. Should Council accept the committee's recommendations as information and refer them to administration for review, administration is proposing that we would then prepare a report for Council's consideration that would, among other things, outline how the recommendations could be implemented and the resources that would be required. This report would, of course, be prepared in collaboration with the committee and is proposed to be presented to Council prior to March 31st, 2024. The last recommended motion for this item is to bring forward for first reading amendments to the Pro-Business Advisory Committee's portion of the committee's bylaw, including extending an end date of the committee out to 2025. This concludes my short presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Dennis. Do you have any questions from council? I'm not seeing any. Great job.
Thank you.
Can we, do we have any delegates for this item?
We have no delegates for this item, Mr. Mayor.
Can I have someone make the motion? Councillor Grandison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move, 1, that the recommendations from the Wood Buffalo Pro-Business Advisory Committee outlined in attachment 1 be accepted as information and referred to administration for review. And 2, that the following its review, administration work with the Wood Buffalo Pro-Business Advisory Committee to bring forward a report to Council by March 31st, 2024 that outlines how the recommendations will be implemented, including the required resources. And 3, that the bylaw number 23/024 being an amendment to the committee's bylaw number 17/024, Appendix M, be read a first time.
Thank you, Councillor Grandison. Can I have someone second that motion? Councillor Banjoko.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I second the motion.
Thank you. Do you have any debate points, discussion, or questions or comments from council? Councillor Stroud.
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. In regards to the concerns raised by the Wood Buffalo Pro-Business Advisory Committee, I believe a recent example is a housing complex in Conklin. The project manager had to ask 5 times for an inspector to come out. This is an innovative and much needed project in this rural hamlet and working towards ending homelessness. Furthermore, we have a short window for construction in our region. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stroud. Councillor Weigel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through the chair. I just want to say thank you for chairing the committee, and Dennis, you're always on top of everything. I have the pleasure of being part of that committee. I know we've worked hard and gone through a lot of these and started with many and worked our way down and with great diligence and just try to help the business community go forward, taking a lot of time to hear everybody's voice, and as well as the new bylaw amendment to address just some other voices that could be on there. So thank you for taking this on and bringing it forward.
Thank you, Councillor Weigel. Councillor Banjoko.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation, and truly looking forward to the changes that some of these recommendations that have been brought forward, particularly the procurement process. And I hope that CEO Hunter would look into that as soon as possible. Sometimes we've got the report of contractors receiving intent to award a contract. From that time to when they get the recontract, sometimes 3 to 4 months. Prices would have changed, things would have changed, labor supply, and so it's been, these delays only cost us more by the time the execution is done, or frustrations on the part of the contractors. So this is critical, and I'm looking forward to some good works. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Banjoko. Do you have any other questions, comments, or debate points from council? I'm not seeing any. So again, thanks for bringing this forward. These are definitely positive changes, and taking the committee from kind of an idea and bringing it to what it is and adding to it is very much appreciated. I'll call for a vote. All in favor? And against? That's carried unanimously. So thank you. Moving on to item 5.1, Councillor's motion. I'll ask Councillor Cardinal to read out his motion. You're on mute there, Kendrick.
Can you defer the motion to the new year, please? I haven't had time to really think about it, and I've been sick, so thanks.
Okay. Do we have any concerns from council to pushing this off to the new year? I'm not seeing any, so we'll do that. Thanks, Councillor Cardinal. If that's it, that's today's meeting. So thank you, everyone. Thanks for attending. For the public, thanks for presentations. Have a good evening. Marcy Cho, Kinwiscompton, Bunnawi. Thank you, everyone.